The rain didn't fall. It crashed. Hard, fast, and unforgiving, a roaring storm that swallowed the horizon, drowning the dirt roads of a remote village nestled deep in the hills of the eastern valley. What was once a trickling stream beside the dusty path had now morphed into a churning river of brown water, devouring everything in its wake: cattle, crops, carts, and even the fragile roofs of homes built from mud and hope. But amid the chaos, one boy stood still, soaked to the bone, shivering under the weight of something heavier than the rain. His name was Rafik, barely 20, barefoot, and hungry, but with a heart larger than the raging sky above him. He had no riches, no formal education, no family left to speak of. Only scars, calloused hands, and a silent resilience carved by years of hardship. On that catastrophic morning, when villagers scrambled to higher ground and the water snarled through the streets like a wounded animal, Rafik saw something, or rather, someone. A car, black and shiny, a luxury that didn't belong in a place like this, bobbing like a leaf in the muddy flood. Inside was a woman, her face pressed to the glass, eyes wide with fear, her fists pounding against the windows that refused to open. She was trapped, the doors jammed, the water rising to her chest, and her scream muffled by the storm. Without thinking, without a second of hesitation, Rafik ran. Not for shelter. Not for safety. But toward the drowning stranger. Red heart fire if you believe in the power of kindness, second chances, and doing what's right even when no one's watching. Please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Comment below, what would you have done if you were in Rafik's place? Red heart fire. Rafik didn't own shoes, but he owned courage. He waded waist-deep into the torrent, every step fighting the pull of the current. A broken wooden door floated by and struck his ribs, knocking the wind out of him, but he didn't stop. He reached the car, used a rusted crowbar he had found half buried in the mud, and began smashing at the window with trembling arms. The woman inside, soaked, shivering, clinging to a leather handbag as if it were her last tether to control, made eye contact with him. In that glance, she looked not like a billionaire, not like someone who had dined with presidents or built skyscrapers in distant cities. She looked like a woman facing death, utterly human, fragile, terrified. The glass finally cracked. Rafik reached through, his arm bleeding, pulled the door open with a grunt, and yanked her out. She coughed, choked, and collapsed into his arms as the car began to tilt, half swallowed by the mud. He carried her on his back, stumbling, slipping, crawling through the flood until they reached a patch of high ground, an abandoned truck's flatbed that had somehow lodged into the side of a hill. There, they collapsed together, breathless. She looked at him with disbelief. He was a boy, thin and poor, clothes torn, dirt smudging his face. She tried to thank him, but her lips trembled, and no words came out. The woman's name was Eliza Moreau, heiress to a global hotel empire and one of the youngest billionaires in the world. But none of that mattered in that moment. She was alive, because of a stranger. A nobody in the world's eyes. A boy who had nothing to give, yet gave everything. That night, while the storm continued to lash the village and floodwaters swallowed the roads, Rafik sat beside Eliza under a broken tin sheet. He shared the only dry item he had, an old shawl that once belonged to his mother. He tore a strip of his shirt to bandage her foot, bruised and bleeding. He even offered her the last piece of stale roti he had wrapped in a plastic pouch. She tried to refuse, tears in her eyes, but he insisted with a smile. It wasn't pity. It was humanity. By morning, the waters began to recede. Rescue helicopters arrived, news crews following close behind. They had been searching for Eliza Moreau for nearly 20 hours, the disappearance of a billionaire headline worthy across the world. When they found her, barefoot, holding the arm of a ragged village boy with muddy clothes and bloodied fingers, the cameras rolled, confused and curious. Rafik didn't understand why the men in suits stared at him with wide eyes. He thought they were angry. So he backed away. Eliza held his arm tighter. She wouldn't let him go. For the next few days, Rafik became a name whispered in village tea shops, then newspapers, and soon across the world. But he didn't care about the attention. He refused offers for interviews and walked away from journalists. All he wanted was to return to his little hut on the edge of the village, where a cracked mirror hung above a broken wooden bench, and where his mother's faded photograph still smiled at him from the wall. But Eliza couldn't forget. Not just the rescue, but the way he looked at her, without greed, without expectations, without fear. Just kindness. Pure, selfless kindness. She returned weeks later, not in a helicopter, but on foot, wearing simple clothes, hair tied back, walking through the mud just like the villagers. She asked for Rafik. He was working in a field, digging ditches to redirect the water flow for the next rains. He looked up, shocked to see her, and even more stunned when she bent down beside him and began to dig. They didn't speak much that day. They didn't need to. Over time, Eliza began helping the village, building a proper drainage system, reconstructing homes, bringing solar-powered water purifiers, and opening a school. Rafik didn't know it was all in his name. She created the Rafik Foundation, but never told him she was behind it. He thought the world had simply changed on its own. He didn't know she'd sold her luxury yacht just to fund their village hospital. He didn't know she had rejected a board meeting in Paris just to help his sister get into college. He just kept living simply, helping others, never asking questions. It wasn't until one quiet evening, when the sky was pink with sunset and the sound of children's laughter echoed from the new school, that Eliza finally told him. She stood in front of him, handed him a small envelope, and whispered, "You saved me. Now I want to save others with you." Inside was a letter, handwritten, offering him a place on the board of her global charity, a scholarship to study disaster response and environmental science, and an invitation to travel the world with her, not as a beneficiary, but as a partner. Rafik didn't cry. He just looked up at the sky and whispered a thank you to the mother who had raised him to be kind. Broken heart, if this story touched your heart, if you believe that true wealth is measured by kindness, not currency, please like this video, subscribe to Kindness Corner, and share this message with someone who still believes in goodness. Broken heart. Memo: before you go, please leave a comment below. What lesson did you take from Rafik's story? We read every word. Memo.